Hi, I'm Ruth Freeman, founder of Peace at Home Parenting Solutions, and I'm delighted to introduce you to author, researcher, and Peace at Home educator, Amy Allamore. Amy is our inspiring education specialist here at Peace at Home with a special focus on educating educators and translating that knowledge to help parents support school success. Peace at Home parents love Amy's unique blend of down-to-earth guidance, humor, and insight while helping us all to remember what's really important. So let's get started. And remember, we're here to answer your questions.
Hi, welcome to Build Extraordinary Relationships with Your Teen through Daily Conversations. We're going to talk about your teen, some general helpful strategies, and types of conversations with effective approaches in each of those types. So to start out, let's think about your teen. They're going through a really exciting transition right now. And each piece of childhood is a transition into what they will be as an adult. You want to think about that, who your child is going to be when you think about that. And you want to help them develop decision-making skills. They are really eager to be independent, making those decisions and choosing their path, but also they're still dependent on us for a lot. And we're here to help catch them and help them think through those decisions. They also crave structure and routine, and we're there to help them with that. They're built for risk taking. They want to try new things, and that's their job, really. So as they develop into young adults, they are supposed to try new things. So what's our job? Our job is to keep them safe. And part of that is helping them think through those decisions. We want them to be able to navigate the world. And so they're going to need a value system. We are there to help shape their moral filter, to help them develop that value system and think through their decisions. We want to support relationships within the family and also outside of the family, teach them about intimacy and trust. And we want to encourage them to contribute to society. We're raising citizens of the world. So thinking about who your child will be when they are an adult is really important when you have conversations with them about decisions. So we know that kids right now are experiencing a really hard time with developing interpersonal skills, self-advocacy, sleep, and academic integrity. And we've seen an increase in anxiety, depression, addictive behaviors, and social media use. And so we just use this as a backdrop to know some of the challenges they're facing, but not challenges that they can't address and overcome. When we think about talking with them about any of these topics or how they might make decisions within these topics, we want to have a general checklist. And so our checklist looks like this: tone, setting, and timing. Tone is how we enter a conversation. What is our affect? And so I might come into a conversation very heightened. I might sound angry or nervous because I am angry or nervous. And so we want to watch the tone. The setting is a place that we're having the conversation. So thinking about, is this an appropriate place? Do I want to make eye contact? Is this better not to have eye contact? Should I be busy cooking or watching television while we're talking about this? Is it good to have a distraction, or does this need my full attention? And then timing. So is this the right time? For example, if you've been thinking about something all day and your child comes home from school and you're ready to jump in and have that conversation, your child may not be ready. They may not have been thinking about this. So do you need to give them a heads up and schedule a time, or just revisit it at another time? And I bring these three things up, not because you can always control them, but that because you can always go back to a conversation and adjust these. So if a conversation happens and you're not thrilled with the outcome, or you feel like you need to continue it, then you can think about the tone, setting, and timing when you do revisit that conversation. And a lot of conversations we have with our teens, we do them multiple times. We start them and we continue them throughout their adolescence. So some general helpful strategies are to reserve judgment. We know that when we judge, we shut down conversation. So when our kids are sharing something with us, we want to try as much to validate their ideas and listen with an open mind. It doesn't mean we're all saying you're always right. It just means we're saying, I hear you. We're being a reflective listener, maybe even repeating some of what they're saying to make sure that we're processing it. We want to let go of expectations of where the conversation may go. That's not behavioral expectations, but conversational expectations. So for example, going back to our earlier example, when your child comes home from school, if you've been wanting to have that conversation with them, maybe about a grade, or maybe you found out that something happened, then you want to think, okay, they had a reason for doing this and not bringing it up yet, right? So you want to let go of expectations and see what their reasoning and their thinking was behind the decision they made. You want to focus on the positive outcomes that can come from it. So again, we're not just spinning everything to make it happy, but we're looking for what can we learn, what can come from this. Be direct and ask open-ended questions. When you ask for yes or no, you're going to get a yes or no, or maybe just a Now, thinking about listening, we talked about reflective listening before. And so that's really thinking about where are we in the conversation? It's very easy to just wait for our turn to talk, but I really encourage you to listen, process, and even repeat what you hear being said to help you truly hear it. We're going to review some specific types of conversations. We'll go back to some of those general strategies, and we'll introduce some new specific strategies by conversation. So the first conversation we're going to talk about is heart-based conversations. These are the ones where we develop that intimacy and trust, where we talk about relationships. That can be romantic, that can be friendly, it can be peer-based. And so we want to support friendships outside of the family. We want to make sure that we're the parent and not the friend, so that we are setting those behavioral expectations and that we are making sure that we're setting routines and structure so that the kids can really navigate the relationship. We want to encourage and model self-compassion. Have you ever found yourself saying, oh, I'm the worst parent ever? You want to make sure that you're compassionate with yourself so that you're teaching your child to be compassionate with themselves. Naming emotions is really key, especially right now when we're all having gone through this very difficult, challenging time in the pandemic. And so we want to make sure that there's space for emotions. We name them and that we're really owning them. And celebrate self-awareness. So when our kids either recognize something positive or maybe a challenge within themselves, we want to celebrate that. They know who they are, they're learning who they are, and we want them to be proud of that. And we want them to lean into intimacy. We want them to learn to trust, talk about trust, ask them, who do you trust? How do you know when you trust somebody? And share examples from your own life. The second type of conversations are the uncomfortable ones. And these are the ones that maybe you feel uncomfortable having as much as your kid feels uncomfortable having. So how do we navigate them? The first thing is to acknowledge, I'm uncomfortable. This may not be comfortable for you, right? But it's so important. We're going to step outside our comfort zone and we're going to have this conversation. You want to be honest and direct. You want to use real words. You don't want to beat around the bush or use slang. You want to be direct. And that doesn't mean you have to overshare about your own experience. But if your child asks you a question, you want to answer it honestly. You want to notice how your child's gone through different transitions in their life and make sure that you're revisiting conversations. And I'm talking about conversations about sex and intimacy, but I'm also talking about conversations about arguments, conversations about awkward decisions, maybe even public speaking. Anything that makes your child or you uncomfortable are ones that you should revisit often. And you notice how your child's changed throughout time and those effects on their transitions. And then you want to definitely have some conversations about respecting consent. And so this is something where it can start where you're talking about borrowing things, maybe going into their bedroom uninvited. That's something where you can ask for consent. So you start with things that are very concrete, and then you talk about consent within relationships so that your child is really clear on what consent is and that they have the ability to offer consent and not offer consent when they don't want to. The dangerous conversations are the conversations that we're really scared about. So if we go back to the tone, often our tone is heightened when we're having these dangerous conversations because we're scared for our children. So we want to honor appropriate development. We want our kids to try new things. Remember, teens are built for risk taking. So we want them to try new things and we want to honor the fact that they will do this, but we also want to provide them some structure around it so that they can learn safety. So it's more about learning from mistakes than catching and punishing. So we want to make sure that if they make a decision to go to a party and drink, go to a party without permission, take the car without permission, do something dangerous in the car, even if they had permission to have it, right? When they make those decisions, you want to talk about them and make a logical consequence where they learn from it. So again, you can catch them and punish them, that's fine. but that's not where they learn. They learn through the conversation about it. And how do they maybe role play with you or set up a next time? What will you do in a similar situation? Because the actual end goal here, again, right, is raising an independent adult. So you want them to learn how to make a safe and smart decision more than you want them to pay the price of the mistake they made. So again, judging sparingly, your child probably didn't go and do that naughty thing just to make you angry. They probably had a reason. So we want to listen for it, relinquish all of our control, allow them some decision making, respect that independence, and also know that if they did do something wrong or something we're not super proud of, or we would have preferred go different, that they had good intentions, or at least not malicious ones. So if they're lying to you or they're just hiding something from you, it's not to make you angry. It's because they're ashamed, or they knew they did something wrong and they didn't want to upset you. So just assuming good intentions can really help you enter those conversations, watching that tone. Now, the character conversations are the ones that help your child develop who they become in the world. So character is who they are when nobody's looking, right? And we want to encourage that decision making. This is where they learn their own character. And again, that goes through with those logical consequences. So we want to make sure we're consistent with those. But we want to invite our kids into what do those look like. So if they do something wrong and you feel like you didn't set up a great consequence, invite your child into the conversation about what would be the appropriate consequence. Of course, you're the parent. Of course, you get to say in the end what it is, but invite them in, and they often have a really good idea. If they took the car without asking, the logical consequences you can never have the car again, but perhaps next time you want the car, these are the processes to go through. And if you just took it without asking because I wasn't home, here's what you can do, right? So you're really talking through the decision making and not the fact that they took the car without asking. You want to honor they're developing morals and values, right? Again, assuming those good intentions, they're trying to figure this out. They're trying to make good decisions. They're trying to do smart things. And we need to honor when they do it. We want to make sure that we recognize it. And we want to develop that practice of gratitude for them and their good decisions. So a practice of gratitude is something you'll see in a lot of our classes. We know that gratitude helps to develop empathy and a sense of belonging and connectedness. And so the practice of gratitude here would be recognizing things that your child is doing well or things that they're attempting to do differently. And so we want to make sure that we recognize it in our conversations. The brave conversations are the ones where your child is developing that self-advocacy that we notice is sort of sliding with teens these days. So we want to first step up and show our own vulnerability. Believe it or not, your child likely puts you on a pedestal and thinks you can do very little wrong. And so you want to make sure that you're showing your own vulnerability. That goes with modeling that self-compassion and making sure that your child knows that it's okay to have a weakness. It's okay to have a challenge. You want to make sure that when your child does err and you have that logical consequence in place, that you're standing up for them. I believe in you, but you're also standing with them to accept their responsibility. So let's say your child maybe did something at school that they need to pay for, right? Like maybe it was something that they damaged that actually cost money. Maybe it was repairing a relationship with somebody where they were inappropriate, or maybe they did something bad in class, right? In any event, it's not that we lose all faith in our kid. It's I believe in you, and here's how I'm going to stand up with you to accept your responsibility. That's how we develop to be brave. We accept responsibility. We want to support and model growth mindset, and that is thinking about how we can grow from experience and from putting effort and persistence into something. So I'm not just locked in as a math person, or I'm not just locked in as somebody who will never be good at you fill in the blank, right? I'm somebody who can grow and develop in these ways. And so this goes along with those character building conversations, right? Am I somebody who's made some mistakes and made some poor choices? Yes, but that doesn't mean that I'm always going to be that person. I shouldn't label myself that way, right? I can grow. I can be somebody who makes good, smart decisions, healthy decisions. We want to find opportunities to foster courage. So, we often think our kid is the one who's going to stand up for the kid who's being bullied at school, or we want to think that about our kid. And it's actually human nature to stand with a crowd or to not stand out, right? So we need to teach them how to be courageous. Are you doing things in your home? Are you doing social activism? Are you doing community service? Are you standing up for others? And this is how we model that. You also want to make home a safe and comfortable place for these conversations where they can be vulnerable and tell you about what they're nervous about or where they have imperfections. Be approachable. So even if you don't have the right answer right off the cuff, again, that tone setting timing, right? We can revisit the conversation at a better time when we've had a chance to think about it. An example of that change would be, I've thought a lot about what you said to me and I'm not thrilled with my lack of response, right? I thought more about my response and I want to revisit that conversation, right? So we can always go back and continue it. So I just want to revisit here that it's important for us to pay attention to the tone, the setting and timing, that checklist. We want to try to reserve judgment because that can shut down conversations and validate our kids' ideas. Let go of expectations of where the conversation may go and focus on what can come of it. Be direct, ask open-ended questions so that it can go in different directions. And consider the type of conversation you're having with your teen as you engage, as it may shift the way that you approach it or revisit it. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate your time. Take care.